right, everybody. Welcome to Watercolor Tuesday for beginners. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. Today I'm going to show you one way. I thought I'd show you what we did last week. That's the negative painting, and I think it turned out really nice. I like it. It's showing a little more on the more olivey on the green than what it is in real life. As you can see, it's very shiny. So just a little extra effect, a little bit more of a texture. And that was one of the Thursday streams also that we did in acrylic painting. I haven't done anything. This coming Thursday, I'll do the back. And that'll be the end of the March folder. So today, we're going to try some clouds. Now, there's many ways of doing this. I think I'm going to, this is just the lid off of a container from the dollar store. But it's nice and smooth and doesn't have any divots in it. So I'm going to use this to tape. And I'm just using washi tape to tape my paper on. And try and get it. I like using washi tape because it's see-through, kind of, so you can kind of see if you're getting it on straight or not. And I'm on a bit of a slant because I'm using my drafting table. Don't know. Maybe I'll bring this out a little bit for you. Makes it less wonky looking. So I'm going to put this down here. I like to do all sides so it doesn't warp. It does warp a little bit because this is only, I think it's a 140-pound Strathmore paper. It's not the best, but it's good for practicing on. I really don't feel it's necessary to work on the real expensive like arch paper or there's some other ones out there that are pretty expensive. And I like to keep that for either commissions that I do or that I'm going to hang up. Then I want it on a real nice paper. Okay, I just lost the end to my tape. There it is. So if you're going to be painting along with me, you can get your paper ready, tape it down onto something. And I'm going to be using some blue paint, different shades of blue, cerulean and maybe cobalt blue, ultramarine blue, that type of thing. And also some brown. So some umber, if you have it, would be great. I'm just going to water my paints. I'm just spraying it with some water just to get them activated. And I have my water to the side here. And I'm going to be using the silver black velvet, a number 10 and a number 8. The number 10 I'll use for wetting my paper, and the number 8 for adding the paint. Also, have on hand some tissues. Let's try and get something without an imprint in your paper. I find that all paper like this for kitchen usually has some kind of an imprint, and that will print onto your paper. So you don't want that. So you want something fairly smooth. You could use a cotton rag. So now you can either spray your paper or you can use your brush to add wetness to your paper. And I'm just going to add some wetness. This is the fun thing about doing skies is it's usually done with a wet on wet. The sky we're going to be doing is kind of a moody, cloudy, looks like threatening. So a bit of darkness happening in it. Just make sure your paper has a nice sheen to it from the water. You make sure all of your edges are done so that it's fairly balanced wetness. You don't want some areas less wet than others. So make sure you do that. And then what I want you to do is, I think we'll clean this up. I don't need the green. Get all that green off. So clean it up as much as possible. If you have a ceramic plate, white ceramic paint, that'll do too. If you don't have a palette, that should do me. And the first thing I want to do, clouds aren't necessarily white. So I like to add a little bit of, actually a yellow. So pick a yellow, doesn't matter what color, and then add a little bit of water to it. You want it fairly watered down. And I'm just going to go on and let this, gotta make sure that your paper is getting dry. So we don't want any blooms. But I just want a little bit of color on there, and we'll let it dry. I know sometimes it sounds kind of weird that you wet your paper and then you let it dry and then you wet it again, but that's because you don't want the paint that you just put on to react to your paint you're putting on afterwards. So that's why we dry it. So we just let that dry. And while that's drying, I thought I would show you one of my watercolor and sketch ink. Hey, Janet. Now, this was done quite a few years ago. This is just a sketchbook, and I just do whatever on it, in it. Whatever strikes my fancy type of thing. Oh, that's fine. I know. Do you sell your company? So this was 2016, and I like to sketch and just add a little light wash of color to things. And this is probably one of the simplest ways of watercoloring. It's just a bit of color on it. What makes it look the way it does is pen work. So I thought we could do some pen work in the future and show you what I know about it. Jim? So these were done, I believe, when was it? 2008. 18, and we were given a word or something of the day, and then we were to think of something that meant to you, and that's what we did here. Like this one here is a sweater. Pretty shoes you wish you could wear. The dog ate it. Coat, so I did a coat on my dog. Pants. Kids still there? You must be enjoying it though, because you don't get to see them that often. That's great, Janet. And I hope you have fantastic weather for it. Relax and watch streams. Sphere. So this one I just put just a dab of color. Sometimes that's all you need. It's just a smidgen of color. Thanks, Janet. A cool drink cylinder for the straw. So you kind of have to think outside the box sometimes. It's fun that way. Get your brain going. It doesn't have to be exactly, literally what the word is. You can interpret it in any way. And I like doing that. And this was, it's actually in the foot. Hexagonal was the beehive. Triangular was the Toblerone candy bar. Sunglasses. Moon. Starfish instead of an actual star. Planet. That's my constellation Gemini, which is the twin, which I am. Snowman, that's kind of like the one we did in a few months ago. It's a little different. Angel, making angels in the snow. Instead of drawing an angel, I made an angel in the snow. Christmas, you only have a quarter of a tree because of the cat. Art supplies, luminance. These were on my wish list. Wet. I did a wet cat coming out of the bathtub. Cold, instead of showing ice and stuff like that, I actually did a guy that has a cold. Soft ice cream. Taste. Smells good. Roses. Fictional character. Golem. My spirit animal, which was a snake. Places I would like to visit. Gardens in England. Something I would like to learn. Photoshop. Favorite season, spring. This was actually, I think it was Eileen didn't put her prompts out fast enough, so I did this. I need my prompts. So it's a funny begging. You want to do the cat as a lesson? Sure, we can do that. This is Caution Bottled Up Art Critic. Book. Bridge. That was a covered bridge that there is actually, this bridge is in Kitchener, Waterloo. It's called the Kissing Bridge. Bird. So that was the bird we did, or I did. Boot. Oh, I gotta have plants in it, of course. You are the least snake on the planet. Your spirit animal should be. Oh, thanks, Janet. Walnut leaf, strawberry leaf. I did strawberry, but I was thinking of strawberry shortcake at the time. Potato. Well, I got to make a potato head. And viburnum leaf. Quince flower. This was cute. The little goldfish. I know I thought that Janet put snakes hang out in gardens. That's Ontario. Thing add to it. Make it a little more interesting. That's what about doing these prompts is you make it a little interesting. Juniper. Elephant. Well, I had to put a little, didn't say the whole elephant, it just said elephant. So take it to what you want. Yes, I want, but I like them, but bunnies and squirrels are the gardener's worst enemy. Egrets. Egg. Mount Everest. So that's just a black and white chromatic. Valentine heart. My little bunny again. I did that one upside down. See, you got one upside down at least. I think every journal of mine has one thing upside down. I didn't write what this was supposed to be. Could just carton, I don't know, or milk. Cow. Yeah. Number 4. That's my lamp. That's an orchid in a container that I have. Candle. Basket. It's my pencil case. This was gloves or pot. Sandwich. These are violets. That's a Zentangle. Butterflies. That was doodled butterflies. Mask. And that was a chocolate, I think. And then we stopped. So I want to continue doing this again. I don't know if any of you guys are interested in doing this type of thing. What type brand book are you? This is just a cheap Michaels brand book. Nothing special. I think it was $4. There's no marking on it. There's nothing about the paperweight. But I had no problem. It is it's not a real smooth paper. So yeah, these are found at Michaels. I don't know if they still have them because that was a few years back, but very cheap. And they did just fine. So, you know, you gotta kind of test out your papers that you have. If you have a sketchbook, try it. This by no means is watercolor paper at all, but it's a little heavier than your typical copy paper. Oh, you're welcome. Let's see how this is coming. It's a little bit damp. It's almost dry. Now, today we're going to be using, let's see, probably the ultramarine. So I'll mix the colors here. Actually, this one I think is cerulean. It's an ultramarine, I don't think. I think ultramarine's darker. So I want a fair amount of this. Okay. And then I want a little bit of umber. I think I'll clean that up there. I don't need the yellow anymore. So I'm just going to put a little bit of umber there. Color that was. Oh, I can't get it out. This one was cobalt blue. I think this is ultramarine here. So there's cobalt, ultramarine, and some umber. I'm going to put ultramarine down here. What watercolors are you using? Just these are, some of them are M. Graham, some are Daniel Smith, some are Core. Here and there. Let me check. This one is Winsor Newton Cobalt. And Core Umber. And Winsor Newton Ultramarine. And those are professional grade. They aren't the student grade. I watercolor on garbage paper all the time. Sometimes, yeah, I don't see any problem with doing that, especially when you're learning, because you don't want to have a hesitation of doing something because your watercolor is expensive. So that's why I just use really cheap paper. Okay, now I'm going to wet my paper again. The whole thing. Get it evenly wet again. Make sure your edges are done. And then I want you to take one of your blues, it doesn't matter which, and I want you to just put in a bit here and there. Make sure you got enough on your brush though. You want it fairly watery because you want this to move. Okay, and then you just take your paper and see if it's going to move at all. You might have to help it along if you don't have enough water. Just let it move a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of water in here, and I'm just going to help it along, just because it's not going to bloom because this page is very wet. So I want it to move. because you want some really cool wisps going on. Then I want you to take a Kleenex. I've got 2 here, and I want you to roll it up loose, like so. And then I want you to pat down the areas that had the yellow in it, and pat it down a fair amount. You can add other areas if you want. Connect some, because the paper or the tissue will actually make some really neat cloud effects. Okay. Now what we can do to make some looking clouds, I guess you could say, being that this is still fairly wet, you want really a lot of water in your brush. Take some of that umber and mix it with that ultramarine. I'm going to actually take the ultramarine up here so you can see. And it makes this really awesome grayish color. So just play with it until you get the color you want. And then I'm going to go in here and put a fairly watery amount in here. Now, the areas that you put in that Kleenex, when you've got a fair amount of water, you can roll this around and it won't go in those areas that you patted down with your Kleenex. It'll stay out of that. So you can let it go wherever you want, for how long you want, depends. You can add a little more if you want. Let it drip. As long as it's wet, you can still do this. But don't put it in dry areas or you'll get blooms. Okay, we have some really defined edges here. Now, what you can do is usually on the bottom of clouds, so where this blue sky is here, on the bottom part, it's usually a little hazier looking. So what you can do is just take your a wet brush, not too much water in it, actually pat it off on a piece of towel or a rag or whatever, and just go into those areas in the blue area and soften those edges. So I just got a little bit of water and I'm just going to go around the edges here just to soften this here. So maybe here, Soften this area. Pools of water like this little bit here, you can sop that up with just a damp brush to get all the water you can out of it. Just tap the areas that's pooling, because that will bloom when it starts to dry. So you can either leave it like this, or what I'm going to do is I can shape some of these clouds a little more. All right. Want it good and dry. Now we can look at it and see what we think. Now we could either add some shadowing in here, like we would see clouds overlapping each other if you want. If you like it the way it is, then leave it the way it is. It's up to you. Let's see. So this here could be a cloud, but this one up here could also be a cloud. So where the blue's coming in here, I think I'm just going to soften that edge a little bit. And bring it up into the cloud. Now you could dab some water in areas. And then take a tissue and just dab it again and remove some. And you could also add some more color too. Maybe along the bottom here would have a bit more. Sometimes the clouds on the bottom are a little bit darker. It's really fun to go and check out different clouds and their formation and just study them a little bit. Take some pictures of them and see what you see in them. You could also do some wisps. Sometimes they have these wisps that come off of them. Now, depending on your paint you're using, will depend on how much you can wisp the clouds. We can add some more in maybe here. Let's make a little bit more of that color up. Just dab it on and let it do its thing if you want. Like there's so many ways you can go about doing this. Just tilting it also helps. Just dab a few dots in it. And you can get some really cool looking clouds. So just play and see what you can come up with. And just let it do its thing. So it kind of gives you a really cool, moody looking clouds. All right, so there you go. Some moody kind of possible thunderstorms brewing up here. So play with your clouds. See what you can dream up. Try different ways of doing clouds. Now sunsets are another different way of doing. So they're actually involved in trees, yellows, blues together, and you don't want to color set with just with your notes. We can also do, if you don't want a moody, cloudy looking sky, you can also just do this way. Now I've just sprayed it with a mister. And then I could take ultramarine color and just dab some of that color in here and there. It's almost like reverse painting because you want to keep the white of your paper. So just put some really intense blues here and there. And then you can roll that paper down and see what shapes you get. And being that it's still wet, just play with it. See what shapes you're going to get. This can be really fun too. Smush it. And then you can take bunch your tissues up and then start dabbing away areas and make some clouds. They can be big ones, they can be small ones, and the more you dab, the more you're sopping up that water. And then when you go to put another layer of whatever color you want on there, it's not going to go in those areas. It's only going to go in the areas that are all wet. So you can tell where you've done it by the sheen on the paper. It's just a fun thing to do, see, just to find out what the paint will do. And then just let it roll around and see what you get. And this is just the first layer. If you don't like it, you can always paint over parts of it. If you like the clouds, then you keep them. So there's many ways of doing clouds, tons. You just have to play with your supplies and just use a fairly inexpensive paper and see what you can get. Just going to ask if they were still with you. Aww. Have to leave tomorrow. Yeah, it's hard when they have to go. Okay. So there I got some more clouds. Now we could either dry this or we can leave it and let it do its thing. You could leave it just as this if you're happy with it as a simple background, or you can make it more complex by letting this dry and then adding another application of maybe a bit of a darker blue on top of it, or maybe you just want to emphasize the clouds a little bit. It's up to you. If you're going to emphasize the clouds, you want to add a little bit of a gray tone just here and there in bits to show the dimension of the clouds. Let's see what we get. Okay, so we got that. See, now this here, that's a bloom because there was a bit of water put on there when this was starting to dry. So this is what a bloom looks like. Some people like them, some people don't. So they're not necessarily bad. Now with spritzing the water too, if you see the little lacing effect, and a lot of times you'll see that in some of the clouds. So that's nice to have too. That's why I use the spritzer. Now we could spritz it again in just the where the white parts are, and this time make up a little bit of that grayish color. And you do that by adding your ultramarine blue with your umber, and it gives you a really nice bit of gray. And I'm just going to tap in some of that gray and let it do its thing. Just here and there, not everywhere, but just here and there. Just to kind of add another cloud maybe. So wherever you have some spritz, just put some of that color in there in those watery areas. And just let it play, move the way it would in this little funny areas that the speckles of water is. And then you'll get a really neat look. And then just take a brush, dry it on a piece of paper or whatever, and then just move the water around on the bottom of those clouds, or you can fluff them up a little bit. But you want a little bit of a smoother transition. So maybe the clouds are starting to form some rain clouds. Remember, this paint dry lighter. So it's sometimes, if you want to also just find some pictures of some clouds and study them, and then try and draw or paint them so that they are similar to the picture that you're looking at. They overlap, so just play and have fun. Just notice how the shading of them are. Are they when they're overlapped? It's just a fun little exercise to do to get used to doing clouds. A lot of people are a little leery about taking on clouds, but they really aren't that difficult once you understand them. Winds and clouds could work in your advantage if you could control. That's true. Sometimes it will. So it's always best to just play a little bit and see what you can get your cheaper paper out and just play. All right. So that's it's a short one today, but that's what I wanted to just play. Get used to using your watercolor. Get used to figuring out how it moves. So we have those two. Let's take this off. And now you could use these as backgrounds, and you could do some pen work on top of this if you wanted to. You could even use this for an acrylic painting. You've got the background already done and just do some acrylics on top. I don't keep them strictly for watercolor. I use them in mixed media. Sometimes I do keep them, but whatever works, whatever's going to work for what you're doing that day. Awesome. Yeah, I love Jan. Have a fantastic day. It's spring here. It's warm. So enjoy the weather while it's good, because April can bring on some crazy weather. At least it does here in Canada. So I hope you enjoy it and stay creative, everybody. And we'll see you on Thursday for Mixed Media Thursday. Bye for now.